everybody, this is Nick. Welcome to the Back Porch. This is not going to be a long video. I just wanted to kind of do a quick, essentially a quarantine TBR. I have a lot of books on my docket. I'm still not done with my Lent list, and part of that is because I got sick for about 2.5 weeks through Lent. And so I've got a few more books that I'm finished with, or I've got to finish, which is fine. I'll probably finish them over the course of this lockdown. But at the same time, because we're quarantining, because we're sheltering in place, because we're having to stay at home, I know many states, even mine now here in the rural South, has finally issued a stay-at-home order. But that's an argument for another day and not part of this YouTube channel. But I thought what I would do too is I read a lot of fiction, but I don't read a lot of fiction like I would like. So I have been looking online for a while for just an online book club that I would appreciate joining that would force me to read some stuff that I want to read, especially classics. I really enjoy classics. I enjoy a good PI novel every now and then. I enjoy science fiction, fantasy, all kinds of stuff. My channel really has not been one that I want to share a lot of fiction on. It was a couple of years ago when I first started, but as I've kind of rebooted the channel over the last couple of months, I really wanted to focus mainly on stuff like theology or church history or the fathers or anything like that. And so I really kind of wanted to stick away from fiction, but through a phone call the other day, or a Zoom call actually, through a buddy of mine that's a pastor over in Georgia, he asked me if I had ever read C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy, the first one being Out of the Silent Planet, which I have read. It's been a couple of years. I started Perelandria like a month after that. It may have been longer, because frankly what ended up happening was I waited too long to start the second one, and I kind of lost some of the intricacies of the characters and story and stuff, especially the main character. And so it was hard for me to really pick up the second book by not just going straight into it from the first book. But I have some other friends, especially an elder at the church that my wife and I were married at and that I went to through college, who just absolutely adores That Hideous Strength, which is the third and final book in C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. And so I thought, you know what? I have a 1 volume of all 3 books, which I don't usually like to do. I like to have each individual book, so that way it's just not as bricky to carry around if I'm able to go anywhere. But I'm stuck at home, can't go anywhere. So I've got 1 copy. I bought this from a bookstore in our former hometown in Georgia, where my friend, who was a pastor. And so he said, you ought to really read all 3 of those because they're great, and they really are. C.S. Lewis is phenomenal. I love C.S. Lewis. I have another one of his books that I'm going to review for you guys here soon, called The Screwtape Letters, which I just absolutely adore. If you've never read The Screwtape Letters, highly recommend it. But that being said, I figured my quarantine TBR, my stay-at-home order TBR, would be C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy, which begins with Out of the Silent Planet, moves on to Perelandria, and then finishes with That Hideous Strength. And here's my copy. Again, this is beat up. It's pretty well beat up. It's old, but man, I love beat up old books. And so this is just absolutely phenomenal. Of course, I'm a huge Tolkien fan. My main fiction is usually probably something Middle-earth. But he actually, most of you, if you didn't know, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were good friends. Tolkien actually led C.S. Lewis to Christ, which is a phenomenal thought to think about. But there's actually a little blurb on the back of this from Tolkien, and he just says, "I was so enthralled that I could do nothing until I had finished it." I want to say that I've even read, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've read that apparently Tolkien and Lewis kind of had a bet. One would write fantasy, one would write fiction, or science fiction. And Tolkien took fantasy, C.S. Lewis took science fiction. And if that's the case, while Tolkien, I know, was developing a lot of the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit stuff during the First World War, while he was serving, you almost have to wonder, he did a little bit better job on this. We don't really have a whole lot on C.S. Lewis's science fiction. From what I remember of Out of the Silent Planet, and I'll review these each as I get through with them, but there's still a lot of fantasy elements in it because science fiction was still pretty new. I mean, Asimov hadn't even published when C.S. Lewis wrote these. So there's some stuff here that's just absolutely brand new. Maybe H.G. Wells, he may have been really the granddaddy of science fiction at this point. But all that said, I feel like I'm going to spend my time in between reading for school and reading for church and just reading theology and history and the fathers for pleasure. I'm going to read a little fiction by a beloved C.S. Lewis, the Space Trilogy, Out of the Silent Planet, Perelandria, and That Hideous Strength. I plan to finish these throughout April, but if not, I'll definitely get to it through May, because who knows how long these lockdowns are going to occur. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope these lockdowns aren't making you stir crazy. and look forward to reading these and to sharing my thoughts with you. Y'all take care.